And for more, Dr. Bong Young-shik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies joins us in the studio today. Welcome.
Pleased to be here.
So following the summit breakdown in Hanoi last week, South Korea is seeking to get these talks back on track, this time through interkorean economic cooperation. Where do you think the U.S. stands on this issue, and do you think it will be brought up between talks between South Korea's nuclear envoy Lee Do-hoon and his U.S. counterpart Stephen Biegun?
Well, I think that analysis needs some clarification first, because I don't think South Korean government is ready to use the interkorean economic cooperation in order to bring North Korea back to dialogue with the United States. President Moon Jae-in, after he had the National Security Council meeting, clearly stated that although he has strong desire to engage North Korea for interkorean economic cooperation projects, but he only told his staff members to come up with the ideas to pursue that goal within the framework of international economic sanctions on North Korea. So I don't think South Korea is going to use that card of economic cooperation with North Korea without consent with United States and other countries, and without North Korea clearly demonstrating its genuine intentions or plans for denuclearization that is acceptable to international standards and expectation. The mission of Special Envoy Lee Do-hoon, going to Washington, D.C., will be sharing the information and analysis about the Hanoi summit meeting between North Korea and the United States. But more importantly, it is to restore the trust and credibility of South Korea by the United States, because the behavior and the words of Chairman Kim Jong-un and his envoys at the Hanoi summit meeting with the United States rather betrayed the assurance rendered by the Moon Jae-in government that South Korean government many times has confirmed that North Korean leadership had genuine intentions for complete denuclearization. President Moon Jae-in himself made these remarks several times in the aftermath of his meetings with Chairman Kim Jong-un. But when President Trump proposed all-in-one deal with North Korea for complete denuclearization in exchange for complete lift of economic sanctions, at least in his words, Chairman Kim Jong-un was hesitant to take it. So Chairman Kim Jong-un's behavior failed to comport with the assurance made by South Korea as an ally of the United States. So how much United States can trust the assurance of South Korean government for North Korea's behavior and promises has to be tightened and double-checked at this time.
So some have said that the Moon administration cannot just play the bridging role by listening to the demands of the North to lift or sanctions relief, and as a mediator, Seoul will also have to draw more steps towards denuclearization, more proactive steps on North's part. What's your take on this?
Well, we have to be aware of South Korea making a false choice. Their choice is not choosing United States over North Korea or North Korea over the United States.
Of course.
Shifting blame on one country or the other country. South Korea's mission or South Korea's choice is to facilitate the dialogue and meaningful negotiations resuscitated by both United States and North Korea. South Korea's position is really clear, in my personal opinion, because U.S. President Donald Trump made it really clear several times that door remains open for dialogue and negotiations between United States and North Korea. And he said during the press conference after the summit meeting with Chairman Kim Jong-un that he would not want to increase pressure on North Korea. He would be just happy to maintain status quo. And the National Security Advisor in the White House, Mr. John Bolton, echoed that sentiment of his president that a door remains open for North Korea to walk in for dialogue and negotiation. So I don't think South Korean government needs to make the current situation any worse or in favor of North Korea or in favor of the United States.
So South Korea also says it will push for so-called 1.5-track dialogue of officials and experts from the two Koreas and the U.S., like it did back, as we saw, in Sweden before the second U.S. North Korea summit. Do you think these sort of discussions will be brought up?
Well, discussions and diplomatic engagements are always preferred by no dialogue or the resort to military options. In that regard, 1.5-track talks of officials and experts from both Koreas and the United States remains a very welcoming and useful idea. But I guess the decision must be made by North Koreans, because one of the reasons for the breakdown of the Hanoi summit meeting with the United States is that North Korean officials have, by and large, dismissed or ignore the value of working level negotiations represented by Mr. Stephen Biegun and his staff members. Although there was assurance surrendered by Chairman Kim Jong-un when he had a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo that he would order his government officials to prepare for the working level meetings in Vienna. But when Stephen Biegun, the special representative for North Korea for Trump administration, was ready, his counterpart failed to appear. It was only very close to the Hanoi summit meeting. North Korean government actually appointed his counterpart, Mr. Kim Yuk-chul. So the working level meetings between North Korea and the United States did not afford enough time to make the Hanoi summit meeting successful. So if North Korea repeats the same behavior, which is the dismissal of the working level meetings and negotiations, but remain only focused on Big Bang with the White House, then I don't think this idea of having trilateral 1.5 meetings would be that successful.
Shifting gears a little bit now, a lot of questions continue to mount over the nuclear facility that the U.S. had demanded from North Korea on top of the Yongbyon nuclear complex. Now, South Korea's intelligence agency says that Seoul and Washington are keeping track of all of the North's nuclear and missile facilities and share the same information. Do you think the two allies shared information regarding the facilities that the U.S. had demanded?
Yeah, I'd like to take Mr. Seo-hoon, the head of the National Intelligence Service, and the National Defense Ministry of South Korea at their words. I think both allies share a very sensitive intelligence with each other when it comes to North Korea's nuclear missile programs and facilities. But the important thing is whether the revelation of additional secret, clandestine nuclear facility that North Korea refused to put on the table for negotiation with the United States in the Hanoi summit meeting would affect the future dialogue and negotiations between North Korea and the United States. Now it is no longer secret, open secret, that Yongbyon, as defined by North Koreans, not by United States, Yongbyon nuclear complex itself would be insufficient to persuade the Trump administration to make a big deal with North Korea, including lifting 5 major United Nations Security Council resolutions. So, in order for the negotiations between United States and North Korea to be restored and eventually successful, the price must be set right for both sides. Now, the price for the United States to accept North Korea's demand for sanction relief and price North Korea is supposed to pay to satisfy Trump administration and the United States are miles apart. So what we need is a roadmap so that we will have a clear understanding dismantlement of nuclear complex facility inside the so-called Yongbyon complex, jointly defined by both North Korea and the United States, would be objectively assessed. Otherwise, then North Korea's price for dismantlement of the Yongbyon complex and the price of dismantling the nuclear complex in Yongbyon complex in the eyes of United States will remain far apart. Then there will be no agreement.
So Security Advisor John Bolton said indeed the Yongbyon was a limited concession on North's part. Now the spy agency also said that a 5-megawatt reactor at Yongbyon has been inoperational and there's no sign of reprocessing of plutonium either. It also mentioned there's no significant movement at the tunnels of the Punggye-ri nuclear test site, which it dismantled last year as well. Do you think the North appears to be taking steps to secure possibly a compromise with the U.S.?
No, I think I should say not, because it is well known that the 5-megawatt plutonium reactor has been stopped in operation, and North Korea's main source of nuclear weapon material does not come from the operation of the plutonium reactor, but it comes from the uranium enrichment programs, the centrifuges. The Yongbyon plutonium operator not in operation would not impress Washington that much. North Korea needs to abandon more of the uranium enrichment operations in order to satisfy the initial demand by the Trump administration.
But the NIS has said that it has detected signs of the North restoring parts of the Dongchangni missile launch site that it tore down. It says they are putting back on a roof on a door to the facility. Now, during the Inter-Korea summit in September last year, Kim Jong-un had agreed to dismantle the Dongchangni engine testing facility. How should we be interpreting this?
I think we are a little too early to say that this is a move by Kim Jong-un leadership out of frustration of the no agreement from Hanoi summit meeting to take what he promised in his New Year's message to the nation, new way to increase the threat and pressure on the United States. It might be just a continuation of preparation for the dismantlement of the Dongchangni missile engine site with the American inspectors present. So we have to just give ourselves more time to assess whether this is a resumption of the provocative action by North Korea or just a continuation of the previous preparatory steps to appease the United States. By the way, if Kim Jong-un leadership is going to take provocations a new way, like a resumption of missile test or even nuclear test, I don't think it's highly likely because the situation does not favor North Korea to take such drastic actions. Because according to U.S. President Donald Trump, regardless of the Hanoi summit meeting outcomes, Chairman Kim Jong-un had promised him that North Korea would not resume missile or nuclear test, regardless of the outcome of the Hanoi summit meeting. So if North Korea resumes nuclear or missile test, then Mr. Kim is going to violate his own orders. And the current situation actually is satisfactory to China, a big sponsor of North Korea, because current situation that U.S. South Korea stopped, key resolve or Fall Eagle joint military exercises and the Ulchi Freedom Garden exercises, while North Korea not doing any missile or nuclear tests, is exactly what China has maintained. The simultaneous suspension of provocative actions by North Korea and the United States and South Korea. So if North Korea is trying to break down the current situation, status quo, then the blames will be on North Korea's shoulders, even by the standards set by China.
So we'll still have to keep close tabs on the situation to see how it unfolds. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for your insights.
You're welcome.